a pawn in someone else's game.
There are plenty of folk.
Exactly. A hatred for my father that runs so deep it's...
Fate is tightening its grip, and secrets are burning brighter than the need fire itself. Episode 4 of Blood of My Blood gave us betrayal, forbidden love, and a dangerous plan that could unravel everything. And now, the trailer for Episode 5 promises that nothing will stay hidden under the flames of Belton. Alliances will break, loyalties will be tested, and the choices made in the shadows could shape generations to come. Let's dive deep into Episode 4's shocking events and uncover what the trailer for Episode 5 is really telling us. Episode 4 was easily one of the most intense hours of the season so far, not because of loud battles or sweeping chases, but because of the quiet betrayals and the dangerous intimacy between characters who are bound by destiny. At the center of it all is Julia, carrying not just the burden of her unborn child, but the weight of a future she can barely control. What struck me most about Julia in this episode is how every choice she makes is both a sacrifice and a trap. She knows that her survival depends on securing her place within the Fraser household, and for that reason she steps into a plan that both disgusts her and frees her. By tying herself to Simon, she ensures that her pregnancy will no longer be seen as a secret shame. But here's the irony: what frees her also condemns her. Everyone in that castle now believes Simon is the father, and Julia must continue weaving lies to keep that illusion alive. It's clever, but it's dangerous, because lies don't burn away easily. They smolder until someone fans the flames. And already we see how fragile this arrangement is becoming. Brian is the first to sense the truth, that Julia's intentions may not be as simple as they appear. He knows she arrived at the castle carrying a child. He knows she sought protection. But the trailer for Episode 5 shows what we feared: Brian beginning to question Julia's motives. Why Simon? Why this marriage of convenience? Julia will try to argue that she had no other choice, but the more she insists, the more Brian will feel betrayed. This is where the balance shifts from ally to skeptic, and Julia may soon find herself standing alone. Yet Julia is not the only heart caught in turmoil. Ellen's story in this episode may be the most bittersweet of all. Watching her meet Julia for the first time felt like witnessing the threads of fate physically knotting together. Ellen, the mother of Jamie. Julia, the mother of Claire. Two women who carry the legacy of Outlander within their bloodlines, now sharing stolen glances and whispered truths. There's a weight to that moment, because we as viewers know what they don't: that their children are destined to meet, to fall in love, and to change history. And so every smile, every word between Ellen and Julia feels laced with destiny. Julia isn't just surviving, she's actively pushing Ellen toward Brian, making sure that the path of history remains unbroken. But love never blooms without danger. If in earlier episodes Brian and Ellen's feelings seemed rushed, Episode 4 finally gave us the fire we were waiting for. Their chemistry has matured. Their desire feels real and undeniable. The way Brian risked everything just to be near her, the way Ellen recognized that courage, it was the kind of scene that reminds us why forbidden love stories grip us so deeply. We cheer for them, yet we dread the inevitable fallout. Because every tender glance is a step closer to disaster. And that disaster has a name: Murtagh. For weeks now, we've worried about what would happen if Brian didn't confess the truth to Murtagh before being discovered. And Episode 4 pushed us right to the edge of that cliff. The moment Murtagh sees Brian and Ellen together, you can almost feel the ground split beneath them. The loyalty he feels, the betrayal he witnesses, it's a wound that won't heal easily. Murtagh is no fool, and his silence will be heavy with consequences. Meanwhile, the larger stage of politics and family alliances is shifting too. With Ellen promised to Malcolm Grant, every stolen moment with Brian is another thread threatening to snap. And Malcolm, surprisingly, isn't the villain many of us expected. He's kind, polite, perhaps even gentle, a man who doesn't deserve betrayal, which makes Ellen's dilemma all the more painful. In a lesser story, we'd be given an easy choice: root against the fiancé and hope the heroine runs away with her true love. But Blood of My Blood doesn't take the easy path. By giving Malcolm dignity, the show makes Ellen's rebellion feel like a true tragedy, no matter which path she chooses. And then there's Henry. His presence at the festival hints at a larger storm brewing. Julia believes Henry is in the 1920s, and she dreams of reaching him through the stones at Belton. But Henry may already be closer than she knows, watching events unfold, waiting for the right moment. The idea that Julia could stand just steps away from him and not realize it is heartbreaking. Fate keeps pulling them together, only to keep them apart. Finally, episode 4 left us with whispers of Belton, the great fire festival where sins are burned away and innocence is tested. The episode carefully sets the stage. Jocasta warning Ellen of the dangers, Ned urging her to stay cautious, the shadow of Simon looming over every decision. And then, the spark, the promise that in episode 5, the flames will reveal everything. Because Belton is not just a festival, it's a crucible where love, betrayal, and destiny collide under the firelight. If episode 4 was about setting the pieces in motion, the trailer for episode 5 makes it clear the board is about to catch fire. The title alone, Need Fire, carries weight. In Scottish tradition, the need fire was kindled by friction, a flame born of struggle, meant to burn away sin and purify those who stood in its glow. And in this story, no character is free of sin, no relationship untouched by secrets. Which makes Belton not just a festival, but a reckoning. The trailer opens with a revelation that shakes the fragile alliances Julia has built. Mr. Porter tells Brian that Julia is carrying Simon's child. Now, we as the audience know Brian already suspects the truth. He knows Julia came to the castle already pregnant. But the danger here is not the fact, it's the way it's presented. To Brian, this is no longer Julia's private burden. It's a weapon placed in the hands of those who want to control her. Julia's survival has always depended on secrecy, and now her secrets are slipping like sand through her fingers. The synopsis even tells us, Julia will lose allies when her lies are revealed. And the first ally to fall may be Brian himself. This potential fracture is devastating because Brian has been Julia's quiet protector. He believed her story when others doubted. He offered help when she had nothing to offer in return. And yet now, with his loyalty divided between Julia and Ellen, the weight of Julia's deception could tip him away from her. If Brian refuses to risk himself further, Julia may find herself isolated at the very moment she needs him most. Meanwhile, Ellen's story takes center stage in the trailer. Jocasta's warnings grow sharper, reminding Ellen that maidens often lose their innocence at Belton, a thinly veiled attempt to keep her from risking her reputation before her marriage to Malcolm Grant. But Ellen's heart is already committed to Brian, and Jocasta's words sound less like wisdom and more like chains. Ned too eschews his warning, urging caution, but you can see in Ellen's eyes that her decision is already made. This festival isn't just a gathering, it's her chance to choose between duty and desire. And yet, choosing Brian isn't just an act of love. It's an act of war. Because if Malcolm Grant's honor is questioned, if Ellen is seen as impure, the fragile peace between clans could shatter. And who would bear the blame? Not the laird's son, not the men who negotiate alliances, but Ellen, a young woman caught between her heart and her family's future. The trailer teases her dancing with Brian, and we're left to wonder, is it a reckless public display or a dream sequence, a vision of what she longs for but cannot have? Either way, it tells us one thing. Ellen is no longer willing to stay silent. And that's where the danger intensifies. Because someone else is watching. Murtagh. We dreaded this moment, and now it's here. Murtagh's loyalty to Brian runs deep, but loyalty and betrayal are two sides of the same blade. Seeing Brian and Ellen together is not just heartbreaking, it's humiliating. He trusted Brian, perhaps even admired him, and now that trust is crumbling. Murtagh's silence, his anger, his eventual choice, these will define what happens next. Will he protect Brian despite the betrayal? Or will he expose the truth, forcing Ellen into ruin and Brian into exile? Either path leads to devastation. And then there's Henry. The trailer shows him at the festival with the Grants, watching from the shadows. His presence raises more questions than it answers. Is he searching for Julia, unaware that she's so close? Is fate keeping them apart deliberately, forcing Julia to suffer through another mischance? The pain of watching them circle each other without meeting is almost unbearable. And yet, This separation may serve a purpose. The longer Julia believes Henry is elsewhere, the more desperate she becomes to risk the stones, to test the boundaries of time itself. The festival itself promises chaos. Flames rising into the night sky, rituals performed to burn away sin, crowds gathered in celebration. Against that backdrop, every secret feels sharper, every glance more dangerous. Jocasta and Ned warn Ellen. Malcolm reaches for her hand. Brian risks everything to be near her, and Myrta lurks in the shadows, ready to strike. And in the middle of it all, Julia clings to her plan of reaching the stones, even as the ground beneath her begins to split. The trailer closes with a violent image, Archbug striking someone down. Whether it's part of the games or something darker remains unclear, but the message is the same. Belton will not pass without blood. Violence, betrayal, passion, all will come to the surface under the need fire. But beyond episode 5, the mysteries grow deeper. The official trailer for Blood of My Blood teased Henry running with a World War II memorial behind him, marked with the years 1939 and 1945. If this isn't an editing trick, then Henry somehow ends up in the future. And that changes everything. Because if Henry survives into the 20th century, why does Claire grow up believing her parents died in a car accident? Why does she never see them again after the age of 5? Theories begin to swirl. Perhaps Julia cannot travel, but her unborn child can, carrying the time-traveling gene forward. Perhaps Julia remains trapped in the past, while Henry slips through time. Or perhaps Julia and Henry both survive, choosing to disappear to protect their children from Simon Fraser's wrath. But if Henry is glimpsed after 1945, alive and well, it means the story we've been told about Claire's past is incomplete. Either history is hiding the truth, or destiny is far more complicated than we imagined. And that is the brilliance of Blood of My Blood. It gives us answers only to raise more questions. It teases fate, love, and betrayal, while reminding us that every choice has consequences that echo across centuries. Episode 5 promises fire, in every sense of the word. But what burns away, and what survives the flames? That is the mystery we cannot look away from.